Hi, welcome to the Hidden Bookcase. This is Wendy Owens, your host, and I'm here with my husband, Josh Owens, co-host. And today our special guest is my best friend, AnnaLisa Grant.
Hi,
Hello.
everybody. Hi.
So, I feels really weird interviewing you, I have to say.
I know, right?
I kind of just want to like bitch about people and make fun of
We could
people.
do that.
It's like,
Sure.
oh, we
Why
can't do that.
Oh, is that what you're really like?
Yeah, we're really horrible people, but
We are. Sometimes we're like an episode of Seinfeld. It's just that bad. It's just awful.
What's her name? The really mean girl, Elaine.
Elaine.
You're so Elaine. I am not Elaine.
What's that make you, Kramer?
I'm a better dancer than Elaine, though. So.
I don't know.
Most
I'll
people
dance
are,
with you. All right, let's get started.
Okay.
So let's start with, can you talk a little bit about what you've written, like title, genre, just so kind of people know who you are?
Sure. Well, I started out writing a young adult series trilogy called the Lake Trilogy. A little bit coming of age, a little mystery, a little bit thriller in it. I don't do a really good job at just writing like straight love story. There's always got to be something. The book's got to hit the fan at some point in time, like in all my books. So that was my first series. Then I do two standalones. One is called Next to Me. It's a little more contemporary romance than As I Am, which is definitely a young adult coming of age. And I just released my sixth book. It's called Embedded. It is the first book in my Victoria Asher series, which is definitely a mystery thriller with romance series that's in there. So I'm excited about it because it can be sort of like this indefinite James Bondy type series where each has a different storyline to it, but just some of those same threads that run through it, you know, with the personal storylines that will run through. So I'm super excited about that one. So.
Well, awesome. I know I got my copy. Haven't had a chance to read it yet, but it's on my to be read. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not close enough. So let's do the typical questions. When did you know you wanted to be a writer?
I didn't know that I wanted to be a writer. I kind of stumbled into writing. When I was blogging, I was AnnaLisa Grant, the accidental author, because I started writing about 5 months after my dad was in a near fatal car accident. And sort of how The Lake starts out is about a girl who survives the car accident that kills her parents. And this story just kept rolling around in my head. And so I thought, well, I'll just write it down. You know, we'll just see what happens. And I wrote 64 pages of that book before I even told my husband what I was doing, because I thought every day I'm not going to care about this tomorrow. This is just going to go away and it's going to be fine. And then it just sort of happened. And that was, I sat down to write it November 3rd, 2010. And so that was kind of the day that everything changed. I took this step in this direction that I had no idea where I was going. And this is kind of where I ended up being. So.
Fun. What does your writing process look like? Are you a pantser, planner?
I'm a total pantser. I'm a total pantser. I have a lot of respect for people that sit down and they do chapter summaries and, you know, character bios, and they map it all out. They've got stacks of index cards on what's going to happen next. I know where it ends. I know what happens in the end. But for me, the journey of it is really great because it ends up being those moments where it's like I'm writing, I'm like, holy crap, I can't believe they just said that. And I love that moment of realizing that these characters really are talking to me and telling their story. For me, it feels very sort of rigid for my personality to have chapter summaries and, you know, character bios, because I like for things to kind of surprise me in the process. So, you know, and I'll write and then I'll take like a week off and won't write anything, but will look like I'm in some sort of catatonic stupor because I'm washing dishes and I'm staring out and I'm thinking about the whole story. But then I sit down and I'll write 40,000 words. So it's interesting. I think it's part of being the accidental author is that I don't really have it's not very systematic for me like it is for other people.
So you say you sit down and you write 40,000 words. Is that in a day?
Oh my God, that's a dream. Isn't that our dream? Our dream is to pump out 40,000 words in a day and write a book a week, right?
I think Amy Miles could do it.
I think Amy does do it. No, I'll sit down and over the course of a week write out 40,000 words, and so
that's a good week.
It is a good week, but that's what happens when I've been mulling over and it all just kind of the story, they talk to me in my head and I hear what's going on and then I see a scene playing out. I take the longest showers because, and the water turns cold. I'm like, oh crap, I got to get out because I'm thinking about all, everything that's going on. It sort of writes itself in my head before it ends up on screen, on paper. So.
Yeah.
So do you have a noteboard in the shower then? I've heard of people just keeping a noteboard they can write on.
That is a great idea. You're a genius, Josh. I should do that. No, that's a great idea. I have to figure out how to do that now. No, but I'll write stuff down. I have stuff in my notes on my iPhone. I'm just somewhere and I'll think of something, or my character will say a really great line. I'm like, oh, that's good, and I don't want to forget it. Because it's one of those, oh, this could be the tagline lines, So
I told Josh about our mansion plan.
Oh, it's an excellent idea.
So for listeners who don't know, AnnaLisa and I found a mansion, and we're both thinking about selling our house. Yeah. So we're just going to go rent this mansion for 6 months and move our families in. Yeah. We're going to write all day. It has 7 bedrooms. But now I just realized there's not going to be enough hot water.
No, there's not. Probably not.
I don't know if we can do it now.
You can install a second water heater.
That's true.
There you go.
It has an elevator. Maybe it has a second
or an capacity on-demand water heater. Solvable problems in this day and age.
See, I told you he'll do anything.
I know. So I love him.
All right. So, what's been your favorite book to write so far?
Well, I'd have to go back to my baby, which was The Lake. It's my favorite because a real learning experience for me in the whole process. Because I didn't know how to be a writer. That was always my strong suit in high school and college and grad school. I would rather write you a 20-page paper on whatever it is than to take some sort of multiple choice test. Because I could BS my way through any 20-page paper and make it sound like I know what I'm talking about. But when they're solid answers, I'm not so good at that. But that was just a really big learning process for me, and I really enjoyed that. So I'd have to say that was probably my favorite one. But if I had to say a second, I would say Embedded, because that came about as a new sort of adventure for me, because it's not young adult coming of age. So that's been different for me. I got to be a little more adventurous than that, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite genre to read?
I hate to sound, like everybody else, but I kind of like anything, but not anything. I generally stick to stuff that's, I love romance, but I generally stick to stuff that's a little bit cleaner. But I like any storyline where you don't know how it's going to end within the first chapter. I mean, you can generally tell, oh, we're going to have a happily ever after. That's great. But how you get to that happily ever after, I like for that storyline to be a little different. I like for it to weave a different pattern. So I probably, I think young adult tends to lean towards that because teenagers are very unpredictable, and so you can read a story that has a great storyline, and your teenager's going to do something stupid, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that. So I like the way that it can be kind of unpredictable in that. So
you'll also read though, like paranormal?
You know what? I'm actually not that big a paranormal fan. But what's interesting is that a friend of mine recommended Jamie McGuire's Providence series to me, but did not tell me it was a paranormal series. So I'm getting to it, and I'm like, holy crap. And so, but I'm already like halfway through this book, and I'm already loving it, so I read the entire trilogy and love every second of it. I also read Amy Bartle's Under Different Stars.
Oh, I love that one.
I know, isn't it good? But I love it because it doesn't start out as this paranormal story. So for me, it sort of eased in from reality into the paranormal, which I thought she merged really well, which I think Jamie did really well with that too. So I guess when I think like I don't really read paranormal, it's not so much that I don't as it is if it's strictly like you walk in and it's like everything is paranormal, that's really not my thing. I like how it integrates really well. So so that's probably more along the lines of how I read that.
Okay. So you've been dabbling in different genres. Is there a favorite one you have to write?
I like this mystery thriller, suspense. I think that goes along with my feeling of I like for the poop to hit the fan at some point. I like for there to be this, I cannot believe that just happened. And I love that I'm able to do that a little bit more in this particular genre. And those are some of my favorite reviews from readers, is when they read my books and go, holy crap, I thought it was going one way, and then the crap hit the fan, and it went a different way. And so, that's, you know, I sort of thrive on that. I love that. And I think my readers, and obviously my readers really like that too. So, yeah.
You got one?
Yeah, so I'd be curious to hear, like, you like the Lake's coming-of-age story, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on, like, coming of age versus new adult. Like, can you maybe talk about those differences?
Sure. My own personal thoughts and experience, coming of age really has to do with, you know, your own, you know, your character's self-discovery. What journey do they take? What challenges did they face? And how are they different in the end? New adult really is more, I mean, obviously the characters are older, typically older, but, and that can be kind of hard because you know that new adult tends to carry this, you know, sexy idea to it. And so if you talk about it in that respect, they're polar opposites, because coming of age, while it can sometimes in the journey include some sexual experiences, new adult when we talk about it in that sort of sexy way, can actually just be much more graphic in that respect. But if we look at new adult as in just a genre where the characters are older, it's not, yes, change happens, but because developmentally speaking, teenagers have a different thought process, they have a different understanding of life, they have different life experiences, they have a lot fewer life experiences. So their process is very different than, say, your 27-year-old who may be facing a challenge and come out different in the end, because they have life experiences, they have a different level of maturity. Their thought process is going to be a lot different than your 16-year-old who may even face the same exact situation, but it's just a different process for them. I mean, if we think about when we were 16, we knew nothing, and faced with some of the situations that we have now, we know that we would have made entirely different choices back then than we do now. So between coming of age and new adult, that would be where I would separate, is the thought process and the maturity level of the characters and how they get from point A to point B, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm going to switch gears here, and instead of like talking about like writing experience, I'm kind of curious, like marketing and business wise, like being an author is kind of hard, like being a solo entrepreneur kind of. What's your experience been so far? Like, I know that you've had some success with like a lost leader. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Some success with the what? I'm sorry.
with a lost leader.
Like the lake, putting it free.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well,
What's
I
that
started.
been?
Yeah, that has obviously been a really great experience for me. I started out. I published The Lake in February of 13, and then I published the second two books. It was February, April, and June. So pretty close, because I pretty well had them all written by the time I'd gotten to that point. So I put them out there. The first book was 99 cents. The second two were $2.99, and they did okay. They did okay. But I got to the point where I felt like I have a really good story here. If I could just get it in the hands of more people, I really think that people would respond. So, I met some different people, and I got into some different circles, places where I met fab people like the Wendy Owens and other lovely people. And I was introduced to a great PR company, and I'm one of those people that doesn't feel like there's any need to reinvent the wheel. If someone's gone before me and tried something and there's been success with that, for me, I feel like I'm willing to give it 3 months to give it a shot and see how it goes. Because it certainly can't get any worse. Because where I was, I had one really good month, and then after that, it really just started to trickle down. I wasn't down to zero, but I wasn't where I was before. So I took my PR company's advice. I made the first book free, and it just kind of took off from there. In my personal opinion, from my personal experience, I think when you have a series, I think offering your first book for free is really great. I think it's sort of the ideal way to go, because if what you want are new readers, new readers are more likely to download a book for free that they think sounds interesting than even a 99-cent book. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think is interesting, because you're like, dude, it's 99 cents. Really? But this is the whole idea of, free. Like, oh, I might read that one day. And so you do that, and you get introduced to a lot more readers. And that's been my experience, and it's been maintaining over the last 7 months, which has been a shock and a blessing, and just, I don't know, it's really phenomenal. I think I would not be where I am had I not offered that first book for free.
And it took you about a month, correct, to start seeing the residuals come in?
Yeah. I had it on for a month, and then that conversion started to happen. I started seeing people buying the rest of the books. I started seeing where those numbers would increase sort of every day, and I started realizing, as I learned more about readers and reader purchase patterns and things like that, there's some people that feel like, if I'm gonna order this book, if I'm gonna read this first book, I'm gonna read the whole thing, like whether I'm like down with it or not. Like, it might be just okay, but I'm committed to the whole series. Mm-hmm. So some people are thinking, okay, I got this book for free, and the next two for $6 total, so I just paid, $2 a book. Okay, that's good, And that's also the beauty of this whole e-platform. Is really, you get a lot of bang for your buck when you have an e-book, So, as a buyer,
So, you touched a little bit on another thing when you were talking about, like, your sales kind of trickling down before the lost leader. What do you do, like, as an author, as an entrepreneur, like, when you are dealing with, I don't want to say like depression, but just kind of like a down day, like you're really just kind of in the dumps, like you get a bad review, or like sales are down and you're just feeling frustrated. Like, have you experienced that, and then how do you kind of deal with like getting out of
that? Sure. I get sad and cry a little bit. No. I call Wendy. Well, bad reviews don't necessarily bother me because I kind of feel like, everybody's entitled to their opinion. My book's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Some people have hated, you know, Divergent and The Hunger Games and Twilight, and those are phenomenons. And so I'm
Yeah,
thinking,
maybe
you
the
know,
question's more around like what happens when maybe your book launch isn't what you expected it to be, or sales are just down.
yeah.
Like Wendy launched The Luckiest, and she's gotten a ton of reviews, and she's done okay on sales, but it's not been anywhere near what previous sales were. And I know
Mhm.
some days like she just gets up and you feel frustrated.
And then I feel like I shouldn't feel that way because I know I'm doing so much better than a lot of my other
Mhm.
author friends are doing, and I'm like, God, you're so ungrateful. You should just be like so like full of joy
Suck it
that you
up,
make a
Wendy.
career
Suck it
out of it.
up.
I know. So like he's the one who pulls me out of the gums, who says like,
Right.
really, like you're making a living. Shut up.
Really? Yeah. You can pay your bills. Shut up. Yeah.
But it's good to know other authors feel that.
Oh, heck yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, my two standalones, Next to Me and As I Am, do not do nearly as well as the trilogy does. And if I'm honest, I didn't have as great a kickoff on Embedded as I had hoped to have. So it's just one of those things that it's hard. It's hard to. It's hard. It's just hard. But you get a good support system around you, and you have to really keep a level head. And one of the things I really think about is that, as much as we love outlets like Amazon and iBooks and Barnes & Noble, is the reality is that as independent authors, we do not get the same kind of support from those markets as traditionally published. I mean, I get emails from, Jamie McGuire's got a new book out, or Abby Glunt, no, not Abby, but, different people, this from, this author, this from this author, and I'm thinking, where's my email for my new book out to my readers, and so that's where you feel like, if I could have that kind of support from those outlets, that this launch might have gone a lot better, because unless my readers are out on Amazon every day or looking at my Facebook or following me on Twitter every day, they're not necessarily going to know. Not all your readers are stalkers. We love our stalkers, but not all of them are stalkers. So part of that is just, so I say that just to say those are the things I try to think about, is that it's not something that I necessarily did wrong. It's that the way the market is right now, one of the elements to not having the sales that you want on kickoff is the reality of not having the kind of support from those outside markets. Now it's changing in some places, but overall we don't. We just don't.
Which is why it's important, I think, for us to think outside the box. You
Right.
were the one who encouraged me to go with The Loss Leader, and I've seen a tremendous turnaround in, what,
Yeah.
2.5 weeks?
Yeah.
To where
Yeah.
we're seeing both series now climbing.
Right.
And I think as an indie, you have to be willing to say, like, okay, yes, I'm losing the royalties on this book, but I'm gaining so many readers.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
To think, like, you can't think like traditionally published
No.
authors.
No, you can't.
No.
You can't. You have to think outside the box, which is why we do things on Facebook, which is why we go to, Indie Book Fest events. It's why we go to places like Green City IndieCon.
Well, that actually leads us into our next question.
Yes.
So, what events can we expect to see Miss AnnaLisa Grant at in 2014?
In 2014, well, I only have 2 more events this year, and that is PennCon in St. Louis, which I'm going to see your faces at too, and Queen City IndieCon in Cincinnati. Yay! So I know a lot of folks are headed down to Indie Book Fest in Florida, and I think there's another one in November, and there's a couple more. So, but we're getting ready to put our house on the market, and so I'm busy.
And moving to the mansion.
Moving to the mansion. So yeah, so I will be there. Excited, very excited about this.
We kind of already covered that one. So, all right. So, as far as you as an author, we've talked about all your successes and the advice and great tips. What do you want to try and achieve in the next year as an author?
Oh my gosh, I would like to, as an author, get on a better writing schedule to feel so that I can feel like I'm more productive.
I think that's every author ever.
Every author wants to do that.
Except maybe Stephen King.
You're like, yeah, I'll write a book in another 7 years. I'm too busy rolling around in my billions of dollars naked on my bed. But just enjoy that image for a second.
Now, yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
No, I do. I just want to get more into a better groove. It's the whole thing about when you work for yourself. It's great, and it's the worst because you are the only one who's going to motivate you to get your stuff together. I mean, I think which is why we do things like set our own release dates. You know, if we say, hey, my book is coming out November 1st, and you tell everybody, you're like, oh crap, my book comes out November 1st, I better get it together.
Oh, release dates, I hate them so much.
But they're the only thing that keep me on track.
Yeah, he's the one who, like, I'll say, well, I'm not going to book my editor because I don't want to miss a deadline. And he'll be like, let's book 6 of them. Oh, crap. And then they're here.
Awesome.
Like, I'm working till midnight going, oh, God. I actually got one in on time, like, last night.
Impressive.
Very first time.
Impressive. Yes.
It was 11 minutes before midnight, though.
Doesn't matter. Still counts. Still counts. Yep.
Mm.
All right, so what is the best thing about being an author?
The billions of dollars. No, because I don't have billions of dollars. Really, honestly, it's just the ability to be creative. It's the ability to come up with an idea and go, yeah, I can make that work. You know, it really is. I mean, it's just this whole idea that, I mean, I've always been a creative person. Played the violin, I played the cello. I was in, I used to do musical theater. Sang professionally for a little while. So, kind of, done a lot of different things. And then I moved into more, I was a therapist I was in that field for 13 years. And so, that wasn't quite as creative, but it was still part of that nurturing aspect of my personality. So for me, it's really getting back into the whole idea of being able to be creative and come up with some far-fetched ideas and make them work. I like the idea of taking something and just running with it. So.
I want to put out there that for any of the viewers, if you have any questions, you can submit them, and we will ask AnnaLisa any questions you have, except
anything.
Some like dirty ones.
Hey,
I don't know. Pose them, and I may answer. I might.
What's the worst thing about being an author?
The whole idea that I'm my own boss, and that. And then I have sometimes as much as you love to be creative, sometimes you have to make yourself work. That it's still a job. It's how we pay our bills. So if I don't, put out another book, it's sort of like, how long can we make this last? It's the discipline. Yeah, it's part of the discipline that's involved with it too. So
you have a pusher in your life that keeps you on track?
Well, my husband does, and he jokes around, and we'll. It usually happens when we're shopping, and I'll go, "Oh, what about this?" He goes, "You got to write another book if we're gonna get that."
We've heard it like that.
Yes.
So, but he's not so much a pusher as he is like super encouraging. If I'm like, I have to leave the house to go write somewhere, he's like, "Go, just go, do it," and. If I haven't felt particularly motivated, he'll get on there and read out loud my positive reviews, my 5-star reviews, and be like, "See, just go write a book. Just go do it." Okay. So he's good about that.
So we actually got a reader question here.
Uh-oh.
Woohoo! Have you noticed an underlying theme in most of your stories, a message or belief that you have a need to tell consciously or subconsciously?
Family. The idea of family runs through all my books in some way. The Lake trilogy is that's what it's all about, is this girl finding her family and reclaiming that. Next to me it was a father and a daughter at embedded. It's a brother and a sister. That's always the central point for me. That I think it really happens subconsciously. I don't set out. I mean, as I set out to tell this story about these sisters, but I don't set out to go, okay, how can I write this story with the theme of family and connectivity involved? I think it just kind of happens that way. That's something that is, incredibly important in my life. And so I think it just kind of comes out that way. So
I think you should write a book about best friends.
And I think one of them should have awesome henna red hair. And the other one...
We're going to get hate mail from Michelle, right?
I know.
Just going to throw that out there. Who would you like to see on the Hidden Bookcase?
Oh, my gosh.
Well, maybe not next, but eventually.
I don't know. You've already had... Amy Miles has already been on, right?
Nope, she's
coming
going to be on eventually, but she's a slacker.
She's too busy for us.
Well, she's traveling, and they're remodeling this house, and so it's kind of insane. I know. And you had Abby on, and you had Samantha on. I don't know. There are a lot of really great... I mean, I would love to see... I'd love to see Jamie McGuire or Colleen Hoover. I think Colleen's got a great story. I relate to Colleen's story because we both sort of got into this accidentally, and it's taken off from there. But I'd also like to see Jamie, because Jamie is part of the reason that I actually published, because she was so generous on her website to actually share exactly how to publish. I had no idea what I was doing, and I stumbled across it. And I think that is something that is, if you're in the right circles, you see it a lot. But if you're not, you don't see that kind of generosity among authors like you do, like with Jamie.
If you're in the wrong circle, get out.
Yeah, seriously.
It will break you.
It will. If you're not in a circle where authors are freely sharing and exchanging ideas and support, get out of there, because as indie authors, there's no way that we can do what we do without the support that we have with each other. You just can't.
Yeah. Jamie's really good. Have you read? She's got a lot of tips about not abusing those relationships too. Like, these are friendships we're building.
Right.
And you can't just go posting on their page, and there is a code of conduct, and if you're not aware of it, go out and talk to people and say, can I do this? Ask permission when you're not sure.
Yeah.
90% of people I've talked to love to help. So,
and
the other 10% are usually just busy. I mean, it's not that they're horrible people; they're just really successful.
Well, and because
there's 1%.
It's what every time you
try that are just buttholes.
That's true, and we don't like them. We don't like them at all.
Anyways, what were you saying?
No. I was saying the same thing. Yeah, no. Either they're traveling. You can always see they're traveling. So, or they're in the middle of something. Or if you don't see them on Facebook a lot, which is just one example, they're probably not the best person to go to because they're super busy. But yeah, overall, I mean, I love getting emails from aspiring writers or new authors. Because I just think it's really important to have that. I had great support when I first started from an author named Erin Healy, who's written some books with Ted Decker, who writes amazing thrillers. She's a great writer, and she actually looked over my first chapter for 3 months, helping me get it straight, and because she had been an acquiring editor at one time. So my feeling is, I can't have been someone on the receiving end of such great generosity and help and not pay that forward. And I can't. And I love doing that. I love helping people. I want to see people succeed. I want to see my friends get on bestseller lists. I don't get jealous when they're when they're on a bestseller list. I'm excited. I'm excited. So
You don't get jealous? No.
I don't. I'm sorry. I can pretend.
If I like the person, I don't get jealous.
Well,
I kind of get upset. But like I said, it's only like 1%.
it's only, I know, it's just a little tiny amount. So really, it's only like 4 people. It's 4 specific people that Wendy hates.
I actually give credit in all of my books to Samantha Young, because
Yeah.
I was lucky that I got to talk to Samantha before she hit it big.
Nice.
So she was freely handing out the advice and love and support. And so like now that I am experiencing some success, like I get ecstatic when I get to do that. So.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I'm going to go ahead and throw out the name. Redcoat PR is both of our publicists.
Yes.
And
the Redcoats are coming.
Yes, they do amazing work. And
yes.
That is the other thing where I know a lot of indie authors probably think, I can do all this on my own. There comes a point where you are making a little money. It's okay to hand some things off and accept support. And I'm not saying like run out and hire Rick, but he does look good in a dress, and he's a lot of fun. And oh wait, did I just say that? No.
Out loud. No, and here's the thing: is to find, if you're going to do that, is to find a PR company that you can partner with. If you find somebody that says, well, I'll take care of all of this and you just write, that's not a good partnership, because you need to be involved. This is your story, your life, your books, and you want to be involved in that and have your hand in it. You know, and that's what I love about Rick and Redcoat and all the agents there, is that it is it's a great partnership, a really great partnership.
You got anything?
No.
Well, I think we're done.
It's so fun.
I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I want to thank AnnaLisa. We'll just say it again. Queen City IndieCon is coming this October to Cincinnati, Ohio. If you live within, like, I don't know, 10 hours, you should totally come.
You should totally come.
Yeah, and thanks to Emerald for submitting a reader question, too. Or watcher question? I don't know. That sounds weird.
No, who was that? Who was it from?
Emerald O'Brien?
Emerald O'Brien. Emerald! I love her. She actually, she was one of those people that emailed me when she was getting ready to start writing.
Nice.
So I'm so excited to see she is finding some success. So she's awesome.
Nice.
Well, if you ever at an event, Emerald, and I'm there, come say hi.
Yes.
So I like to give hugs if you smell good. So. All right, sun's coming up, and I'm starting to look like I have like 5 tones of skin. So we're done. So thanks for joining us, and I'll see you soon, Miss AnnaLisa.
Bye.